Wow. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for finding time to be with us this morning. Let me start by saying that I'm hoping that today's keynote speech I'm going to make will be followed up with action. That we are going to set in motion something we can do that can really turn the many good things we have talked since yesterday here into real, practical, measurable action. Because one of the things I know us for, as civil society, is that we talk quite a lot. And sometimes because we talk quite a lot, we act very little. And that's very dangerous. I've been asked to talk about, and I'm sorry I'm not going to do protocol. All of you are great people, so there's no bigger or smaller person here. You're all welcome, all protocols observed. I've been asked to talk about rethinking sustainability, ensuring longevity and independence of civil society in Uganda. I'll start by asking you to think about this. Do we have civil society in this room, or do we have NGOs in this room? Or both? Because I tend to think this room is full of non-governmental organizations and very little civil society. And probably that explains why we are struggling what we are struggling with. Sustainability means you are people-centered, you are planet-caring, you are prosperity-driven. Everybody, everything you do is about creating prosperity among the people, and to yourself too. You are working in partnerships that delivers peace. That's, for me, what sustainability is all about. And why I think this is important is because if we look back at certain documents we have raised, which I'll talk about later, we have actually addressed these issues. But typical of what we are, when that program ends, we pack those things and start looking for new proposals. And we don't go back to them. I will confess to you this morning that that document has been the guiding tool for the last over 11 years that I've run the Uhuru Institute. I go back to it every month to check. We wrote it together. It was called the Citizens Manifesto. It is what I use every day to guide all the business we are doing at the Uhuru Institute. And it has helped us a lot. I would like to ask, raise your hands, when was the last time you looked at the Citizens Manifesto? That's the reality. That's our biggest challenge. We do not keep continuity, and we must think about it seriously. The second thing I want to talk about is longevity. In human terms, longevity means living longer and healthier life. You can live longer and still be healthy. That's good longevity. To not just about being living long, but also living healthy life. In organizational terms, it's about sustained success, always delivering new success, adaptability, resilience. It means strategic renewal, always renewing new ideas so that you keep growing and moving forward. And customer focus, because your customers, in our case, are the community we work with all the time, are the ones who guide what their needs, what should guide what we are doing every day. And for me, that's very important, because without that, we are not able to innovate. We are not only we should also be very, very ethical, but also very innovative, bringing new innovations all the time. If we cannot do that, we are going to struggle with sustainability. We're going to struggle with who we are as civil society. Longevity in civil society will mean you are moving beyond the culture of short-term projects. They are as short as sometimes they're 3-month projects. And I've run one when I was in the International AIDS Alliance in Kampala here, when I just come back from my international tour of duty. I ran a 3-month advocacy project on maternal health. Surely, at the time the project ended, the women were still pregnant. The one we started the project when they just got pregnant, the project ended when they were still pregnant. So the project did not even solve accompany them for 9 months. That's how short-term that some of them can be. They're usually to close out some money which has remained. Then the donor says you can do something about it. We must go beyond that. We must do long-term thinking. Because development doesn't take 3 months, 3 years, or 5 years. Development doesn't take 3-5 years. Development takes many, many years to build and be successful. You go and talk to these businessmen in town. or busy women in town, how far it took for them to break even and start growing. It's not easy. Life cannot be just like that. I also like to think that civil society, sometimes when we talk about civil society, especially when we talk about in the space of NGOs here, we look at civil society and we say, when did we start again? We start talking about somewhere in the 1980s, 1990s, and civil society started doing after the Luweero War. My friend, for me, the first civil society include the Lamogi Rebellion in northern Uganda, Kabelega's anti-colonial wars. That's for me what civil society really is. The Uganda matters, they rebelled in the king's palace. They questioned the king's authority, the Kabaka's authority, and they were sentenced to death by one of their parents. The person who moved the motion in the Lukiko was a father to one of the children who was later burnt in Namugongo. That was how serious it was. But they questioned the authority of those who were in power, and it got them thinking a lot what can be done about these people. We also had, as we get closer to independence, 1913, the China Kolia Growers Cooperative Society in Gombolola Sabawachi of Singo County. That was the first cooperative in this country. And you know why they set it up? It was to protest the government, the colonial government policy, which did not allow any African farmer to take cash crops like cotton, coffee, like to the market. You had to sell it to an Indian or to a white business person who then reaches the market. And it was even as bad as, for the Asians, it was even worse. And if there's an Asian in the room, please bear with me, I must tell this truth. You had to clean their toilet before they weigh your cotton. And the toilet was not a flush toilet of these clean ones of today. It was a bucket toilet. So you take the poo-poo, you go and bury it somewhere, then you can clean the bucket properly, put it back in weight, then that's when they weigh your crops. Because you needed the money to buy to get something you could do it. Until the farmers started rebelling against it. And that set our foundation for our independence struggle. Then the labor movement started growing. And in the 60s, those lawyers who sat here, keep remembering, the Law Society, the Uganda, not the Uganda Law Society, the Law School, the Law Development Center, was the African Labor College, founded by the labor movement of East Africa, led by Tom Mboya. And it was closed and turned into the Law Development Center because the powers that be at that time in the 60s were not comfortable while the labor movement was growing and giving them a headache. Remember, the then Prime Minister had grown up in a labor movement in Kenya before he came back to Uganda. That's what it is. That's the reality of what civil society is. These borders, we say border economy, sometimes someone talk very arrogantly about border economy. These guys are in trillions. They're worth about $1 trillion Uganda shillings now. And they are beginning to, they came to meet me to organize trainings for them. They are growing. And they could become a big civil society, more than we do. But all these groups I've told you about, none of them are donor money. None of them are in corporate social responsibility. Private companies giving it nothing. It was not there. But they organize. They're even the ones, so the China Korea Growers Cooperative were among those who got the Kabaka to open cooperatives in every sub-county in Uganda, and they were very much behind the support that got the Bataka Rebellion to question the authority of the Kabaka and the authority of the colonial power. That is what it is. That's what civil society, real civil society is. The truth about aid is that foreign aid or international aid, you want to put it, their priority, and we must accept this. Priority number one is the interest of the country that is sending the money here. They also have interests as countries. They do, and they must do it. And a good government must do things that service the interests of their citizens. So when they give you money, they also have their interests. I had in the room, Sweden is here. I once traveled to Sweden and I attended a European Textile Merchants Conference in Umeå, north of Sweden. And at break time, I asked a question during the meeting, and the president of the European Textile Merchants told me that we could talk at break time. So he told me, Leonard, you asked a very interesting question, but let me tell you, the truth is we are the ones who we have give these politicians direction because we finance them. And they must provide aid there where we want, because we are the ones going to, we have trade interests. We have interest there. So that's what the truth is. So if you find that CEDA's regional office in Africa, in Zambia, it's because the big companies back home there have interest, mining interest in Central Africa. So they have to be in Zambia near that mining interest. That's a fact. So we must understand that they do not have geopolitical interests, they have constituency interests back home, and they have trade interests. That's what shapes the agenda they come when they call for proposals. Some of them are even just about experiments, maybe to learn on you as guinea pigs. So the reality is, there is no free lunch. There is no free lunch. We must accept that. There is no free lunch on earth, not even at home here in Africa. So when we start talking about worrying about how the donor money, we must accept that we are in it because we do not have our own money, and not because we are poor, but because we have not deliberately thought about it, how we can deal with it. Some of the private foundations have interests. Some of them are geographic, but some of them are tax rebates. The more some money you give out, you apply for tax rebate, you get it. Even in this country, by the way, our tax laws provide for that. If you can prove, and with good accountability, you can prove it. You can prove it, you'll get some tax rebate for it. So these are the things that drive. So what does it mean? The second group that is of the interest of the person giving the money is that community, the beneficiary, those who actually they give, maybe build a school for. That's the second interest they can think about. If we give them the school, will they become good friends of ours today or tomorrow? And the final one, the last interest group, priority interest, is you, the agent. That is how anybody who gives money out works. And you must understand that. It is the interest of the person giving the money must have interest. And they must protect their interest using that money. Number two, the person who is going to benefit, because that's the final target of that money. Number three is you, the agent, the NGO. You are just the third, and you are peripheral in the interest. Because you are just a means to reach where the real interest is. That's a fact of life, and you can say now they're not being fair. No, they have to survive too. And therefore, they have to protect their interests. So what are you doing about your own interests of civil society, or as Ugandans, or as Africans? That's a reality we must accept. But the truth is, we are not poor. In this country, I said it sometime back, about a few months ago, when I was talking about a similar topic here, that we spent, in the first 8 years of independence, we built 22 hospitals, we built secondary schools. If you go to those old schools, the Nabisuns and Namagunga, they all have the same architectural design up to today. We built those schools without donor money. As a country, without. We zoned this country. When I hear now people talk about zoning, we had a research led by the late Kiruna Kiveji. He was a youth leader then. He led research around the country. We had zoned the country in agricultural zones, how we can develop them over time as a country. We did that all without a lot of external money. We can still do it. And I'm not saying you don't completely, but you can still do it so that external money is an addition to what you're already building or mobilizing together. We can do this. For us in the NGO sector, we must also understand that if we do not look at these things carefully, we are in big trouble. So I make a few suggestions what I think can be done. Because I think the problem we are facing is that we are not being deliberate. I think when we finish here, we must set a task force, and I'm not saying we should elect. We should think through as leaders and select these 4 or 5 people whose job is to reflect on what we are and how we redefine ourselves. We cannot keep talking. We must have a team that does that and reports back to us so that when we go for the leaders' meeting in December, these people must have a recommendation. This is how the strategy we're going to adopt as civil society on what we do, step by step, what we should do. I would like to request that we make that a decision we take here before we leave this conference. We cannot every year come talk, have Leonard have a big speech, everybody talk about good things, and then we go back, we don't take any action. So I think a team must be put in place. And that team, I said earlier, that team should revisit the Citizens Manifesto, which NGO Forum you led on. I was one of the people who worked on the Citizens Manifesto. I'll give you just one thing about it. It said we were working for a peaceful and prosperous nation with happy people. That was the mission. That was the dream we wanted for Uganda. A peaceful and prosperous nation with happy people. Now ask yourself, do you constitute those who are peaceful, prosperous, and happy now as NGO leaders, managers, and leaders? If you are not, the recommendations inside the Citizen Manifesto gave details on what we can do as a country. Except the language focused more on what governments should do and what we should question them when they don't do it. I would like to recommend that this task force I'm talking about reviews that Citizen Manifesto with the understanding of what are we going to do, what does it mean for us as civil society organizations, and what can we do differently. I think it will help us a lot if we do that. Because I use that, I said earlier, I use that every month in my office. I go back to the document, this is what we agreed, what we're going to do with cooperatives, because I work with cooperatives most of the time. And that has helped me a lot to keep me not losing track of what we, even when you go to my website now, you'll find our mission, our dream, our vision is an enterprising, prosperous, peaceful, and happy society in Uganda. That's what our vision is. And our mission, again, driven by what is in the Citizen Manifesto, is inspiring citizens to generate wealth together. We wake up to that every day. I didn't get it from anywhere. I got it from the work we did already, and I've continued with it, and it is helping us build many things we are doing at the Uhuru Institute. And we had agreed that we were going to do exactly that. But I can bet to you today, very few of us ever did it. We put it aside and moved on to do more new project proposals. Why would it have been important? If we all did that, it would have been easier to sit and negotiate with these donors that this is the agenda we think is going to be good for our country, and this is what we would like to see, the area we think you can support. And I think it would have been easier to negotiate. But we left what we had actually generated ourselves. Now, the truth is facing us. We should also consider negotiating for patient equity capital. It is also very possible to get it either among the citizens, or broadly around. We can get patient capital, especially if we are organized and we show that we are going to generate some income, revenue out of it, and work as social businesses. We must mobilize our NGO members and staff to rejoin Nafasi Multipurpose Cooperative. We set it for ourselves in 2014. We still have more than, I think we have now 150 or something members. We never joined, okay? In fact, I remember one colleague telling me, Leonard, you are radical. You are always proposing radical things. I told him, we now have donor money. This was my arithmetic. Before we registered Nafasi Multipurpose Cooperative, I went to the NGO board. I met the permanent secretary, I met Okello, Mr. Okello, I met Muze Kangwaje, who was the chair. We had lunch, and he told me that in their estimation, they don't have exact figures. We have about 500,000 civil society people, Ugandans in the civil society sector. So I said, if we have 500,000 and we are saving 100,000 each, if all of us working and relating with the civil society were saving just 100,000 shillings each, and we were 500,000, if all of us had joined the way we had thought we were going to do, we would have been saving 50 billion Ugandan shillings every month. If we did that for 1 year, we would be saving 600 billion shillings a year. If we did that for 10 years, we would have saved 6 trillion Ugandan shillings. 500,000 Ugandans would have done it. When I introduced this idea, I told the people I talked to in that meeting that I strongly believe donor money is going to go down. And I gave my reasons. It's not because they hate us, it's just they're having so much pressure back home. The population is putting the politicians under pressure. Donor money is going to go down to new priorities. And that's exactly what has happened. But like I told you earlier, one of us had lunch with me and told me, Leonard, you are radical. You always come with ideas which are crazy. I said, these ideas are for us. It's not crazy. It's going to work for us. Because if we had 6 trillion in our bank account, as Nafasi Multi-Purpose Cooperative, with all of us, tell me we will not be able to invest this money to give us jobs. We will be able to do it. These big companies you see, Toyota, all these big companies you see about, there are people who started by buying small shares, and the members going to millions of people. That's when they have capital to raise big business and do what they want to do. That's a fact. That's the reality of life. That's what happens. So we must recognize this. And I'll tell you why I chose cooperatives. Because the cooperative is something which is called the cooperative identity. In the cooperative identity, it has values, what they call the traditional core values, ethical values, and principles. The core values include self-help, self-responsibility, democracy, equality, equity, and solidarity. In cooperatives, even if I have 1,000 shares and for you have 1 share, we all have 1 vote. That would mean we can work together the way we do things and believe in civil society. Even if somebody else has more shares and at the end gets a bit more income when we get dividends, we would still do that and still have the same voice of the poorest member of staff or member of the cooperative of Nafasi or of the NGO sector, still having a voice in the meetings. That's how it works. You may not believe it. There is a cooperative which is about, I think about 10, 15 years now, all in this country, which, since they started their coffee cooperative, they are now exporting 800 containers of coffee to Europe every year for the last 5 years. They are farmers. They don't have money. They can question when they go to a district meeting, when they go to the Minister of Trade, everybody meets them because they are worth talking to. So with these values, you find that it is possible for all levels. It's more inclusive because of the values. The second values, which is ethical values, is honesty, openness, social responsibility, and caring for others. We are always working to care for others as NGOs. This is already a value in cooperatives. The other one is the principles. There are 7. Principle number 1 is open and voluntary membership. If we chose to get into it and we formed this and grew it up, nobody would force you to go into it. It must be voluntary. The reason I say so, one of us, when we started Nafasi, one of the CEOs of one of the organizations went and ordered the staff to join Nafasi. He picked money from his pocket and paid joining fees for all his staff, and the first 1 share each. Since then, none of those staff members has ever added any cent because they are not ready for it. They are not been explained to them. He just had a meeting and ordered them, they must join Nafasi. We are all going to join. And he paid for them to join. So he breathed self-help and self-responsibility. And they never ever came back. And they've never been active in any way. The other one is democratic member control. Everybody having 1 vote and must be part of an annual general meeting. The other one is member economic participation, which is buying the shares, saving and trading, patronizing business of the cooperative. Cooperating among cooperatives, autonomy and independence. We are always doing training and information education with members all the time, so we are always up to speed. The way we go to the church every Sunday and we are taught the same verse which was written many years, 1,000 years ago, is the same thing we do in the cooperative movement. And why have I said, well, I might keep on promoting Nafasi? Because it is yours. We founded it together as NGO leaders, then we got lazy about it. In fact, one of you even went around spreading a rumor. The second general meeting took place in 2015. And in that general meeting, it was agreed that we must increase we must put 2,000 shillings, each of us, 2,000 shillings from our reserve, from our savings, every month, so that there's money for doing administrative work in the cooperative. Then one of us went around spreading a rumor that Leonard Okello has now charged 2,000 so that he can make some money with his wife. Because both Leonard and his wife are members of the first. Get the point? And he made a big room around, and many of you listened to it and did not join because you thought we were going to, or Leonard was trying to cheat you. Well, the time has come for us to remember that we did not do the right thing at that time. We must do it now, and we can do it. We talk about social businesses. Cooperatives are social businesses. The first and the most effective social business I know is a cooperative. And I think we can do it together and do very well. But we can run social businesses. I saw up here the social business among the many sources we think of getting financing or which we can be able to do as a society to build our independence. Let me tell you, for that to work, we must change certain things. We need a real mindset shift. I'll tell you this. I'm in business, I'm in business, in the social business, but business can be challenging. You can crash completely and start afresh. You must be ready to start afresh. That's the reality with business. And in our context, it's also very complex because the taxes can even be used to stress you. So you can sometimes receive tax bills, which if you don't go back to the revenue authority and check, you find that the tax bill was not real. You must always check. The best is not to fear revenue authority, always to go and engage them and understand these things. It means we must change our mindset from writing project proposals into writing business plans, from writing concept notes into writing a one-pager, a one A4 size pager business model canvas, which sets what kind of business model are you talking about. And therefore, you understand how is it helping your community, the one you're working with. If you're doing advocacy for the Food Rights Alliance, for instance, if you are connected with those people, they will support your advocacy. They will do it easily because they know you are linking them to the market and you're talking about their market. We have to get away from the dependency mindset all the time looking for who is going to give us. When actually we have some money in our pockets, we must use our own monies to save in and to grow our shares and grow the capital of our businesses. It means we have to start thinking long term and stop short-termism in our life. It means we must begin to be more diligent with money. When money comes, we must count it carefully. Because it is money, the people who give us this money that bring us here, they count it carefully. And the fact that they count it carefully, why they can help us with money to sit here. So we must learn to count money carefully ourselves. I would like to recommend that we cannot continue talking and talking and talking. We must talk and act. I ask you all to think through this, and before we leave here, I'm repeating, let us have a clear action plan on how we are going to start this journey of rethinking who we are, rethinking how we do business, and how we are going to build our independence. You cannot talk independence when you don't have your own money. You can talk independence when you have your own money, so that if external money is coming, both local and international, is additional. And we can do it. If we are many together, what may look very big will be very, very small. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Before I go, I would like Chris to give me permission to give you knowledge that outside there's a young lady selling a book which can make you understand cooperatives and how to train cooperatives. I know that a number of you have been trying to support cooperatives, but what I also know is that many of you don't know what it is. I had to take time to learn. These ladies out there are selling these books. They are from Uhuru Institute. Please buy them. They'll help you. The other thing which I would like to recommend very strongly is that we have developed a media house, which is called the Cooperator. We run an online version, but we also print monthly magazines. This magazine is 120,000 for a whole year. Okay, we can drop it in your office. It writes very, very, and I'll give you a few examples. We wrote this no license, just a letter of objection, and our circles and IMF say freely with money lenders. It came out on Friday. This law had been passed by Parliament and had taken more than a year in the President's desk. An amendment on the Microfinance and Money Lenders Act, which was closing the Uganda Microfinance Regulatory Authority and moving it back to the ministry. But certain people delayed it. You know what? It came out on Friday, and by Tuesday, the President had signed the law. Because he read it and realized that he was missing, he had missed delayed something, which was affecting business for microfinance in the country and cooperatives in the country, which are mainly SACCOs. So I would like to say that if you are serious, we can actually put down this. And Chris, this is for you.